Cageside with John Morgan.
And welcome, everybody. Another episode of Cageside with John Morgan. I'm your host, Eric McMahon. UFC Fight Night this past weekend. And there was a little bit of reffing controversy. We're going to dive into that. It was a fun card, though. We got to see Raul Rosas Jr. get back on that win streak. That's always fun. 19 years old now. We're going to look forward a couple weeks away. UFC, Saudi Arabia. I think the whole world is clamoring for that fight, or at least I know me and John Morgan are. So, without further ado, to help break everything down, he was out of town this weekend. I saw pictures of it on Instagram or Facebook or probably Twitter, all of the above. Confirm it for us. His name is John Morgan. What's up, pal?
It was on X, I think. No, it's always going to be Twitter to me. But that was great, man. I'm still resting up a little bit from this past weekend. It was fun. Got to watch the UFC on replay afterwards because I was working Fight League Atlantic up in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, just outside of Halifax. So it was a fun little weekend. Good card. My man Chris Kalidas, who I'd commentated fights with before, actually came out of the booth and came back after 5 years away and had a retirement fight. And, fought a younger man, but was able to outgrind him and got the victory. And it was a fun night, man. There were some big highlights to open the night. There was some controversy along the way. But you know me, man. I love fights, man. It's fight week again. I got CFFC coming up this weekend. I'll be working with Renato Moicano. So, man, we just staying busy and enjoying the fights. Working with money. Can't wait. Money.
All right, well, without further ado, let's dive into UFC on ESPN 57, Cannonier versus Imavov. It was a fun card, marred in a little bit of controversy, or actually it's been marred in a lot of controversy. We'll both give our takes, but I think it's what's dominated the headlines coming out. And that controversy, if you were living under a rock, is Jason Herzog, the great, the highly respected, the vet, the OG, Jason Herzog, referee, stops in, calls a halt to the contest at 1 minute and 34 seconds of round number 4, TKO punches, to much dismay of not only Jared Cannonier, but by and large, fighters and fans alike. So with that being said, we'll get into the stoppage, but I want to touch on the fight as well, because it was a great fight. It's showing that Jared Cannonier at 40 years old is still competing with the killers of the division, the highest level in that middleweight division, and he's still rocking. And I don't know how you scored it. It's hard for me to go back and kind of go through round by round. The tide definitely was changing for Imavov.
Yep.
But Cannonier, was up on the scorecards at that point in the fight.
Yeah, he was. He was up 2-1 on 2 of the 3 judges' card. Junichiro Kamijo had Imavov taking 2 and 3. So it would have been a split at that point. But I mean, obviously there was still a lot of fight left to go. But you're right. It's interesting, right? Because with Cannonier at 40 years old, you start thinking, gosh, man, is that his last chance at the belt? Does that slow things down? But I took away exactly what you did. Like, he's competitive with anybody in the division, man. I mean, I don't feel like he's on borrowed time. Normally when you start guys getting around the 40-year-old, you start thinking, man, how much time do they have left? Are they thinking about the end? And I feel like, man, that dude is taking care of himself. You know what I mean? He's not a dude that's out there partying, that's out there doing whatever. He's just totally dialed into this. And I think he can continue to compete. So, this may have been a setback. And again, we'll get into the controversial side of it. May have been a setback either way, but I think he can still compete, man. And I think he's entertaining. You know what I mean? Like, who doesn't want to see that guy in a fight? So I think there's still a lot of big matchups available for him. So I don't think this was, kind of an end of a road for Jared Cannonier. It's unfortunate. The result was, but man, I think the guy still competes with anybody in the division.
I do as well. And I mean, it proof's in the pudding, right? Because now, Imavov could probably would have employed a different strategy had this been a 3-round fight. But the argument's sake would be like, if this was a 3-round fight, then Jared Cannonier won the fight. It wasn't a 3-round fight. It was a 5-round fight. Strategies are deployed differently, but a lot of conventional wisdom could say that.
Absolutely. And it's funny, man. I'm going back and looking at the losses, man. I was thinking, like, who are the losses to in my head? Because I couldn't remember. the three losses that he's had the past few years are now to Nassourdine and to Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker. I mean, come on. And you got wins over Gastelum, Brunson, Strickland, Vittori. I mean, a big win. So, yeah, you're right. I mean,
I didn't have him winning that Strickland fight.
I'm just saying, it's on the record that way. We could talk about that as well, but it's on the record that way. But yeah, man, I mean, he's got some big results. So, I mean, yeah, I guess we got to jump into the controversy and the stoppage and all of that. But it's not a horrible result for him.
Okay. So again, unless you've been living under a rock these last couple days, if you disconnected from the television or the internet, there's a lot of controversy with Jason Herzog stopping that fight when he did. Now let's recap how we got to the stoppage. Nassourdine cracks Cannonier, definitely puts him on shaky legs, puts him on, just retreat mode, hitting him with big shots. And when I say retreat mode, it's not I'm backing up, trying to regain. It means I'm turning and fleeing the situation. Okay.
Yep.
Then Imavov would catch him, crack. Now, to Cannonier's credit, if we want to talk about intelligently defending himself, he was intelligently defending himself. Was keeping his hands up, wasn't taking more big shots, but clearly that his balance, his wherewithal was not there. He might have been clear in the head, but the body was not reacting to the head, right? So he kept on fleeing a little bit more. He's stumbling, bumbling, gets pinned back up against the cage again, gets cut off. Another round of a couple big shots, albeit they didn't land clean, but Cannonier is still on shaky legs.
Right. Jason
Jason Herzog jumps in and stops the fight to right away. Now, this is the key in all of this, as it pertains to me, a guy who refs very high level fights.
Right.
And this is what drives me crazy about fans sometimes and media pundits and everywhere. But back to the key point in it is Cannonier's reaction to the stoppage is where I think the controversy is with everybody. He reacted of like, what are you doing? I'm fine. And Herzog had to explain, you took big punches, you weren't responding. And you could hear him on the broadcast talking to him. And then it goes to Imavov celebrating. Then the chatter starts. So, just at its root cause, good stoppage, horribly bad stoppage, bad stoppage, justifiable stoppage, completely unjust. Where do you fall there? Because there really is a big spectrum in this. Okay?
It is. It's funny.
On the spectrum of bad stoppages do you fall?
It's interesting, right? Because as you were laying out, I was like, would I describe it that way? No. Would I describe it that way? No. But the word you landed on, justifiable, that's the one that hit in my head and said, that's the one. I didn't like the stoppage, if I'm being honest with you. I didn't like the exact moment of the stoppage. But when you use that word justifiable, I think it's justifiable, right? Because you touched on it, right? Like Jared Cannonier is turning his back. We know you can't turn your back, right? Intelligent defense. You're not running away like that, right? You're actually standing in the pocket. You're addressing the blows. You're moving from, and he wasn't doing that. So the spirit of the stoppage, I completely agreed with. Jared Cannonier was in trouble. He's moving around the cage on shaky legs, wobbly legs, and Jason Herzog sees that, and he sees Nassourdine step in with this, final flurry, and he's like, okay, that's enough. And I'm sure in his head, and you've been in this position, so you can explain it better than me, but obviously I've observed a lot of fights, is that I imagine that he's saying, I got to see something, and he's not seeing it, right? And so you don't see that, so he steps in. I did not love the exact moment because, you kind of said it wasn't necessarily all the shots were landing clean, but they don't have to land entirely clean if you're not doing anything to stop them, if you're not doing anything to get away. I mean, how many times have we seen guys turtled up on the ground and, they're taking shots that a lot of them are landing to their hands and their arm, but they're not doing anything to get out of the position, so it's obvious that they're not all there. So I like that word justifiable. I didn't love the stoppage. This, to me, was not Jason Herzog's greatest moment. I will not put this on the career highlight tape and see, like, man, there's the guy that nails it every time. But I'm also not going to sit there and say, what is he doing? This is ridiculous. This is crazy. It was justifiable. And the other thing, it's hard. I get it, the controversy and the reaction, right? I mean, I think you nailed it too. It's the reaction of what happened, right? But we've seen that happen too before, right? Where guys get knocked out and then a punch wakes them up. You know what I mean? Does that mean that they weren't knocked out before? No, it doesn't. So the reaction at the moment doesn't help things, but it doesn't mean right or wrong. And I think it's important to remember what referees are tasked to do in there, right? I mean, you're protecting somebody's health and safety. I mean, we love this sport. We absolutely love the sport. But at the end of the day, we have to remember what's on the line there, right? And these referees, if we're going to criticize them, we can't just say like, hey, they're trying to determine was that foot inbounds or out of bounds. You know what I mean? It's not like that simple and cut and dry of what they're deciding. They're protecting somebody's health and safety in there. So I like the spirit of the stoppage. I didn't necessarily love the exact moment that it happened, but I like the word justifiable.
Okay, with that being said, justifiable but early, or justifiable but spot on, or just like, hey, I don't know where to go with it. It's justifiable.
Justifiable, but like at the incorrect moment. Like that's what's weird to me. Like if he stopped it a few seconds earlier when Cannonier's turned around and looking backwards, everybody goes, yep, that guy, you know what I mean? Like it was just a weird, the exact moment, the exact timing was a little bit weird. And yes, to me at that moment, I wouldn't have stopped it at that exact moment. So maybe justifiable, but a little bit early, but it's weird because if it was a little bit earlier, it might not have been early, if that makes any sense whatsoever, which is bizarre, but I think so. I mean, as he's tripping around the cage in there, people might have said, yeah, okay, I get it. He's not there. It was at that moment, it was a little bit weird.
I think conventional wisdom is going to say it was early, right?
Right.
Okay. But this goes to my point. Do I think it was early? I think maybe hindsight being 2020, maybe early. Here's what I'm not going to do. All right. Is I'm not going to sit here and second guess Jason Herzog. That's like saying, are you going to second guess? It's literally almost on the same plane as saying, are you going to second guess Big John McCarthy? I put him at 1A and 1B, right?
He's got that much experience, right? That much experience at a high level.
And to me, Jason Herzog is who I like to, I try to model myself after. He's close, but not too close. He's far, but not too far. Even if you watch his mechanics in the ring, like literally, he does not cross his feet. He shuffles one way or another. He's always in a great. And so what I'm not going to do is second guess Jason Herzog, right? I'm not going to second guess what he saw, what he said, how he was directing the fight. Because even Jason Herzog earlier in the night stepped in and say, I don't want to see an eye poke. Close your fist. Like the guy is a great referee. Okay. So with all that being said, the reaction of Cannonier is what had people upset. I don't believe it was the stoppage. It was the reaction to the stoppage. So we're going to do a little history lesson here to why it was a justifiable stoppage. Maybe hindsight being 2020 a tad bit early, but why it was justifiable. The one common thing I hear, especially as a referee, and as a referee that refs at high level on high level pro cards, and I hear it from the media, I hear it from the fans, I hear it from the fighters, I hear it from my wife. Consistency. Yeah. Consistency. Is they say there's no consistency. He'll let this guy get killed in this fight, and he'll stop it too early on this fight. He jumps in to break the fighters at this point if it's this fighter, and he won't do it if it's that fighter. Maybe true with other guys. It's not true with Jason Herzog.
Yeah.
Literally, he is as analytical approach to these things as you can possibly get. I'm going to go back, how many was it? 2 fights earlier, or 3 fights earlier. Bruno Ferreira versus Dustin Stoltzfus. Did I pronounce that correct?
Stoltzfus, it's a tough one. Dustin Stoltzfus is hard to say.
It is, okay? So Jason Herzog was the referee, and it was that spinning back elbow knockout was unfreaking believable. We can talk about that a little bit.
That was a scrap.
But Jason Herzog stopped that fight, right? And that was the fourth big shot in a 4 big shot series that ended the fight. But Stolfus took the back elbow, went down, hopped right back up, and then on the hop back up, Jason Herzog jumped in between them and called a halt to the contest. Okay? I can make an A-to-A comparison that fight was exactly similar to the Cannonier stoppage, right? Stolfus was clearly hurt. He was clearly on shaken legs. He was clearly compromised. And Jason Herzog made the executive decision is saying, I'm not going to let him take any more damage. And I'm not going to wait until this fight goes to the ground and to take 3 or 4 more answer shots for me to yell, fighter, you got to move. You got to protect yourself. Fighter, I'm going to stop. Like, he made the executive decision not to go through that dog and pony show on that stoppage. Kind of like the exact same way he did on the Cannonier stoppage. I can make an A-to-A comparison that they are the same stoppage. What was different in the scenarios that didn't have people crying on one and had people crying on the other? And what was it, John?
The reaction. It was the reaction. Dustin Stolfus didn't do anything. That's why I was smiling as you were talking about it, because I hadn't thought about it. And as you explained to me, you're right. Because I'll be honest with you, when Dustin Stolfus popped back up, as I was watching that fight, I was like, man, is he okay? Was that a little early? But Stolfus didn't do anything. So it's like, nope, I guess the stoppage was fine, right? So you're spot on. It's the fighter's reaction. I had no problem with the Stolfus stoppage at all. And obviously he didn't either. He didn't react to it. He didn't complain. So you're 100% spot on. It was the fighter's reaction that leads to the controversy. But, you know, the referee doesn't get the benefit of seeing that fighter's reaction when they have the decision to make. And that's why I'll go back to my point is remember what they're doing in there. Remember what they're protecting in there. Remember what's on the line in here in terms of fighter health and safety. And that's always going to be number one. So well done, sir. Well done.
Oh, you want more consistency out of Jason Herzog?
Oh, you got more?
I got more, right?
Okay,
and the reason that this fight sticks in my head is because he's a local Memphis product. I reffed him a lot as an amateur coming up. I've reffed him a multiple of his pro fights. I reffed him on his fight right before the Contender Series. You called that match.
That's
and
right.
His name is Danny Barlow. Danny Barlow at UFC 298 in Anaheim, California, fought Josh Quinlan, another Dana White Contender Series product, right? It is a ultra competitive fight, very, very good fight, a tit for tat fight. Danny Barlow cracks Josh Quinlan with a left hand to God.
Left hand to God.
Left hand. Hurts Quinlan bad. Quinlan knocks down, gets back up. He's on his skates. He takes a couple more shots. Bing, bang, boom. Danny Barlow is tracking him the whole time. He's cutting him off, laying shots. Quinlan gets his hands up. He may have taken a hard shot, but some are bouncing off. And Jason Herzog steps in. And another subtlety of Jason Herzog. He doesn't jump in and do this. He just jumps in.
Right.
Does one time.
Just one.
One time, we're done. And if Quinlan would have made a reactionary towards like Cannonier did, people would have called it an early stoppage. He didn't. He kind of rested on Jason Herzog, just like Stolfus did. And everybody's like, man, this guy is a phenomenal ref. It's the reaction to it. So my point in saying all of this is we are not in the position to second guess Jason Herzog, right? This guy is the most consistent ref that I see. And I see them all. And he is utterly consistent. I just pointed to 3 exact same stoppages within a 3-month period. And they were all following his way of he refs. He is ultra consistent. I'm not second guessing it at all. Hindsight being 2020, maybe a little early, maybe not, but he's ultra consistent. You cannot criticize the way he is reffing MMA contest.
I agree. I didn't feel like, I was robbed of a result because of this. I mean, Jared Cannonier was clearly hurt, and I love what you laid out there. And look, man, you don't have to see guys slump to the canvas to wave something off, man. If they're not intelligently defending themselves, like, man, remember what we're doing here. It's a sport. We love it, but there is health and safety on the line, so you got to remember that. So I'm with you. I didn't love the exact moment. That was my exact the thing I wrote down as I was watching was I don't love the exact moment, but I like the spirit of it. I don't have a problem. And I love that word you landed on, justifiable. Maybe a little early, and I love that you demonstrate the consistency as well. So, hey, by the way, since you're bringing up Danny Barlow, can we just give a little mention there real quick? Uros Medic is the fight that has been announced. He's back from that broken arm. He's healed. He's recovered. He's going to be fighting August 10th right here in Las Vegas at the Apex. I'm happy to see Danny Barlow back because that kid, you've seen it up close. I've seen it up close, man. He is talented. And this matchup with Uros Medic, woo, that could be Uros Medic coming off that win over 10 means. I mean, this could be a very, very fun fight. I like this matchmaking.
Yeah, Don, I say this. I've been in the cage with tons of UFC fighters. I've been in the UFC octagon. Danny Barlow is the most special athlete I've ever reffed, and I've reffed them all. I've reffed an amazing athlete. Danny Barlow is the most special athlete I've ever reffed. Just his fast twitches, unlike anybody I've ever seen. But with that being said, I'm looking forward to that fight. And
just had to rep Memphis' own since you brought him up right there. Had to rep Memphis' own.
Yeah. So, hey, man, how good do we feel about Dominick Reyes getting back in the win column, man? Doesn't that just feel good?
It does, man, because look, and I like Dustin Jacoby too, man. So, I mean, I thought this, and to be honest, I was picking Jacoby coming into this fight because I just thought, man, there's just something wrong with Dominick Reyes. And man, gosh, you talk about one of the biggest what if stories in all of mixed martial arts history, right? I think I'm on the minority side of that. I didn't think he beat John Jones. I thought it was incredibly close. I did score that fight for John Jones. I think a lot of people out there scored it for Reyes, and I get it, man. It was incredibly close. I'm talking about razor thin. But I had it for John Jones.
Perception.
Yeah, it might be.
Ref different. I talked about it last week.
you might be talking about. You might have nailed it. Oh, well, I don't even want to get it. The John Jones DC interaction on that new Roku series. Oh my God.
We're gonna get into
I'm going to talk about Dominick Reyes right now. So I always felt bad because this was like the biggest what if scenario, right? I mean, this guy's life could have changed, man. I mean, not only are you talking about, financial impact, obviously contracts change when you win UFC titles. So you're talking about, real financial and life, but just the way your perception and your whole life arc at that point. I mean, so much. And then he goes out and he loses. And you look at the guys that he's losing to is Jan Blachowicz, Yuri Prochazka. I mean, Ryan Spann even. We're talking about top level guys. But you just wondered, like, dang, man, is this guy just snake bit and his life just, man, what could have been? What could have been? There's still a lot of time left. And this was a big win. And to get it done in emphatic fashion like that, he's 34 years old, but, especially in those higher weight classes, like heavyweight, you compete a little bit longer. So, yeah, man, this was a feel-good moment. And I mean that not at the expense of Dustin Jacoby, because I like Dustin Jacoby a lot. He's a dude that has grinded, throughout his career to get where he's at. But, man, this was just kind of like a feel-good moment for Dominick Reyes.
You know what? They kept on saying something on the broadcast where he goes, I'm oh gosh, now it just slipped my mind. But essentially to the fact of, I'm not back to my old self. I'm better than I'm a better version, especially. Right. But he took a year and a half off since that just horrendous Ryan Spann knockout.
Ooh,
took a year and a half off. It was November of 22. Right. So he took a lot of time off. He got better. He healed. And, you see that you've been around the fight game for so long, when you almost have to reset your body and your brain, because if you get cracked, if you take that one bad knockout and concussion, you become susceptible of getting knocked out. And then if you don't take that time to heal, then that's just, you're just forecasting your future. It looked like he took the time off. He healed. And now this version is a la 2019.
100%. And that's because that was the issue, right? Not that the guy didn't have skills, not that he's athletic, but the chin was just having some issues, right? And you got to give that some time. Sometimes it doesn't come back. Sometimes it does. You know what I mean? But you got to at least give yourself, as you said, a chance to heal, a chance to reset. And he did that. And it's not easy to do that sometimes because, man, taking time off is great, but it's not like you're on a salary in the meantime. You know what I mean? You're not getting that money. You're taking that time off and you're not getting a paycheck. But to make that commitment, say, you know what, man, it's better for me in the long term to sacrifice a little bit in the short term to hopefully deliver that moving forward. So he made that sacrifice, and this was a big result. And man, just happy, like you said, just feel good, man. Happy for Dominick Reyes, because that man was on the cusp of being the guy that took out John Jones. And man, it had been kind of a long road downhill since then. So I was happy to see this win.
So speaking of that, he ended up being the guest on the post-fight show that I watched. And I think it was Rashad Evans is like, man, it must feel good coming off of 4 straight losses. And he goes, 3.
I didn't see the post-fight show. That's great. I love it. Well done, sir. Well done, Dominick Reyes. That's great.
Yeah, obviously referring back to the John Jones
fight. 3 straight loss. I didn't get a chance to defend my title, but yes, 3 straight. I love it. Well done, Dominick Reyes.
So Raul Rosas Jr. picks up a submission rear naked choke victory, 222 of the second round. Ricky, 2 shows and fun fight, man. And are we about to put unrealistic expectations back on Raul Rosas Jr.? Is that what we're about to do?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because the kid is exciting, right? And I mean, he is fun to watch fight. He's got a great personality. I love that he's trying to get on that Sphere card. He embraces, obviously, his Mexican culture. I will say, though, I was a little worried. I'm not sure as a jiu-jitsu practitioner, I mean, you're a black belt, the way he wasn't addressing the hands at all when he was stuck in the choke, it made me think 2 things. Here's one thing. It made me think 2 things, and you tell me what you thought. So I watched it, right, and he's keeping his chin tucked, and he's not addressing the hands. And I'm like, 1, that's a guy that has been in a million rear naked chokes in his time, so he feels comfortable. He knows where he's at. But it did make me concerned that is a basic, and you've been able to get away with it because of your skills and your levels. But as you progress to the higher and higher levels, if you're not addressing the basics, that could cost you at some point. So when you talk about the unrealistic expectations, perhaps, I don't know. That's what I thought. I looked at that in 2 ways simultaneously. Like, he let himself get into trouble, and he was comfortable in the trouble, and he fought out of the trouble, and then obviously he came back and he got the submission of his own. But it did scare me a little bit in the fact that he wasn't doing the basics, and I worry that as he faces the elite level competition, not that Ricky Turcios isn't a great fighter, but he's not elite, that will cost him somewhere down there. So I was a little bit torn on it, but I loved it. I mean, at 19 years old to be competing at that level, and how beautiful is it too? He bought his mom a car, and he's talking about, I want to be able to buy my mom a house. I told my mom when I got into this, when I told her at 4 years old I was going to be a fighter, it was because I was going to pay for her house. I mean, what a beautiful sentiment, right? I mean, that's amazing. So I'm cheering for the kid, but that did concern me a little bit as I was watching it.
I'm going to push back on that a little bit.
Okay.
So it's addressing immediate threats.
Right.
Right. A lot of time when you're in a submission, I always hate this. It's like, as a referee, it makes me chuckle. A lot of people try and punch their way out of a triangle. And I'm like, no, can't punch your way out of a triangle. Like, Don't be doing that. For some reason, especially in the amateur scene, they just think they can. But you need to address the immediate threat. And a lot of times on the choke, if it's not underneath the chin, it's not the immediate threat. The immediate threat may be the body triangle. It might be the hooks where the positioning is. And even if you're not grabbing it, even if you're just torquing your body a little bit, that creating space down on the hips is actually creating space here. A lot of times, if I'm caught in a rear naked choke or close to a rear naked choke and I tuck my chin, it's usually I'm not just tucking my chin down. Right? Because the pressure on that is a lot worse than if you're tucking it down into an angle.
Yes.
Right? Now it's a lot harder to even get, because it's almost impossible to get the arm under the chin if your chin is down and at an angle, and the pressure isn't as great.
Right.
So essentially, where is the immediate threat? If my chin is down into an angle and there's just a lot of pressure on my face, it's not the immediate as if my chin was just straight. It's not the immediate pressure, or as crushing of a pressure.
Right.
But now the immediate threat that is holding me in the position, because what's holding me in the position is not the choke, it's the positioning of the body. So I'm going to address that, because this isn't a worry. It's not the immediate threat. And so if I were to crystal ball this or 30,000 foot view it, that's what I was seeing, is that, hey, he's fine here. It's not the immediate threat. Let's work on the body positioning to get out of the position, which is holding me in the position, which then can lead to the threat of the submission. Don't forget,
I like it.
Positioning is where it's at. That's what's holding you there, not the choke.
I like it. I like the explanation, man. I like the insight there. Like I said, I know that you've got much more insight than me in those exact situations because you've been there a million times. And it did make me, I was like, look, if he's not addressing it, it must not be a concern for him right now. But it just scared me a little bit too. I'm like, is it just because he feels safe there, or is it just because he's been there a million times against this lower level, competition that's not going to be able to impact him some way that when he's in the elite level competition? But I love it, man. I was happy for him. I mean, you're right. The expectations
let's flip
are on
that
him.
Script though, really quick, John. Let's flip that script really quick. Turcios was in the same exact position, and the difference, and I'm going to tell you what the difference was, is Raul Rosas Jr. had the arm across the chin and the head was straight. It wasn't down like this, and if you're listening to this and not watching on YouTube, it's hard for you to see. But the difference here is that's kind of how Khabib got Conor, is the pressure, because the head was straight. So the pressure is so on the chin, just breaking your jaw that way. And so even though Turcios was like fighting the hands, there was so much pressure that he said, screw it, and gave him the neck.
Yep.
Because their pressure, so the difference was the angle of the head.
That's such a subtle little tip there, though, for people to realize, because it really does change everything, right? Like, man, you could crack a guy's jaw, the pressure that's on there. Years ago, I'll throw you old school, Matt, back when I was a teenager, Ken Shamrock, actually. You talk about, and it always stuck with me because I'm like, you're just mean, bro. He would talk about taking that little bone that's right next to the wrist there, and just he would talk about putting it right under people's nose on the, you know what I mean? Like, you can hurt somebody. I was like, wow, Ken, you were just mean, bro. But he's like, man, if you can't get it, trust me, it is effective. Like, you might just end the fight there. At the very least, you're going to adjust their head position because they're going to be so incredibly uncomfortable. They're going to move it.
That's a technique. Somebody's fighting the hands, or they keep the chin down. You take the blade across their nose, and it hurts so bad they lift their head to slide the other arm in. Gordon Ryan does that all the time.
Yep. Absolutely. What a brilliant submission artist that man is. So unbelievable. But man, look, Raul Rosas, 19 years old, doing what he's doing. You talk about unrealistic expectations, man. It's hard, right? I mean, because you think about it, I mean, there's so much time for him to grow into it and for him to move up the ranks. And so I don't think you have to put too much on his shoulders too early. I think the loss, honestly, was a good thing for him. I mean, it's better to be undefeated, but I think it slowed the hype a little bit. And he even said it too, man. I loved his post fight when he said, "Thank you, Christian Rodriguez. Thank you. You know what I mean? I became a better man because of you. I became a better fighter because of what happened. That'll never happen to me again." And man, I do think now we're seeing what everybody was excited about. But I think that loss helped kind of damper the enthusiasm just enough to where the expectations can be realistic, not unrealistic. The guy is good, man. He's really good. And again, I love what he's fighting for, man. I just think that's beautiful, man. To take care of your family like that is awesome. And man, obviously, I think the UFC knows what they're doing. I imagine they'll have him on that Sphere card. I
saw growth in this fight from him. Okay. And why did he lose against Christian Rodriguez? He gassed.
Exhausted.
Out,
he was exhausted. Yep.
Right. And now, granted, he got the second round submission here, but the pace in round one, I was like, are we going to see a repeat? And he came out, he kept the pressure and the pace, and he broke his opponent instead of him getting broke this time. I see that as like, listen, if I need to fight frenetically like this, I need to fight frenetically at a pace that I can consistently keep, or a pace that I set, not letting the other guy set it on me. So from that aspect, I saw big growth there in Rosas Jr.
I would agree, man. The guy has real skills, man. I think a lot of people wanted to write him off, right? Just be like, it's all hype. He was a teenager. They brought him in. It was just a marketing ploy. Nah, the guy's good. I mean, you talk to anybody that trains them, they'll tell you how good he is, and he had the setback. But there's the growth, right? And you have to be aware, right? I mean, look, you're having that much success early on in your career. You might just think you're unbeatable. You know what I mean? You might just think you're unbreakable. And then all of a sudden you find out, whoa, wait a minute. There are people that can compete with me. I have to make these adjustments. And I think he's done it. So this was a big win for him.
Yeah, it was a big win for him. The crowd, I mean, he's a baby face. Like there's baby faces out there, and then there's baby faces. He was a baby face. He's the second baby face. This crowd loved this kid.
Everything is wrestling, right? He's a baby face for sure, man. They absolutely love him. It was good. It was good to see.
Everything is wrestling. All right. Now, yes, there are other promotions going on. And yes, there are other big fights out there. And yes, there is an UFC card next weekend. I'm going to skip over all of them.
All right.
All right. And like, listen, I'm a fan. I'm going to be watching everything. But I I can't just talk about Whittaker, Chimaev, UFC on ABC 6 from Saudi Arabia. I just can't talk about it for 1 week. I need 2 weeks to talk about this fight, about this card. God, listen, this isn't a pay-per-view. It's on free TV, ABC. I can't tell you the last time I was like this excited for a fight. And we want to talk about styles make fights. It's like, as Gorilla Monsoon, everything is wrestling, right? Gorilla Monsoon famously said, the irresistible force meets the immovable object, right? It's like I see this in this fight. Whittaker, Chimaev. Golly, I'm so excited because this is going to tell us, right? There are a lot of critics out there. There weren't early, like Chimaev. He's the next GOAT. He's untouchable. He's this, that, and the other. Then some things happen. Some pullouts. I can't fight in the United States. I got some injuries. I got COVID. I got this. I got that. Plus, then I come back and I look like the one-round dominant fighter. If you can get out of the first round, then we're going to see what happens. He is going into a 5-round fight with Robert Whittaker, a guy who just his last fight in Costa went 5 rounds, looked like he was in impeccable shape. Who takes down Robert Whittaker? Who takes this guy down?
Nobody.
What's Chimaev's one best, easiest path to victory? Taking him down.
Ground and pound.
That is a huge problem. If you take him down, who submits this guy? Who submits Robert Whittaker?
Nobody.
So this is like the irresistible force, meaning the immovable object. We can break it down stylistically next week. I'm just here this week to build the hype. I'm the promo machine. All right? I'm the promo guy here. This fight is freaking believable from just a stylistic standpoint. Somebody who is going to stand there and walk forward against a guy, Whittaker's going to do that against a guy, Chimaev, who is going to scream across the cage. What's going to happen? If you can't I think he's going to be able to take Robert Whittaker down. I do.
I do
that
too.
Good of a wrestler.
I do too. I think
he's going to be able to submit him though. And if he can't, can he take him down repeatedly? Can he take him down round 2? If he can he submit him? But can he take him down round 3? Now that's the question. Can he take him down round 4? I don't know. Can he take him down round 5 if he gets there? I don't know. And then once that gas tank is emptied, now that just plodding boxing, that heavy boxing of Robert. I'm jacked up.
Bro, I love it. And like you said, no disrespect to the athletes that are competing this weekend coming up at the Apex. But it's hard not to start looking forward to that. I mean, we've been looking forward to it. And it looms so large in the division as well as to everything that, how things are going to play out. Like, you really can't talk about what's next for a lot of guys in the division until we know what happens here, right? I mean, so it's one of those fights that, what do we like? We like stylistic intricacies, right? Things that are interesting to us and that they can be fun. But when they have stakes on the line as well, that's when it goes to another level, right? And we have that here. So this is going to be phenomenal. Have you seen the betting odds in this matchup?
I was about to ask you on that, and I'm actually in a Legend FC fight in 2011. Robert Whittaker got submitted by Hoon Kim back in October 30th, 2011. That's just one submission on his record. One submission loss on his record.
That was a long time ago.
That was
a long time ago.
So I knew it might have had to happen. But anyways, betting odds. Where are we at?
Khamzat Chimaev minus 250. Wow. Does that that one I just wasn't expecting to see that, man. I thought
I don't think that's a crazy line. I think it's like, listen.
Is that public perception or is that an honest evaluation of the fight?
I still think that MMA odds makers get it wrong.
Right. But and let's remember what they're trying to do. They're trying to get, two-way action so that they level. So, they're setting this a little bit higher. So it's not necessarily their evaluation of how they think the fight will play out. It's, they've got to see two-way action to get it. But and I don't know. I expected to see that a lot closer. Like, I'm not surprised, that Khamzat is the favorite. I mean, Khamzat clearly has not accomplished what Robert Whittaker has accomplished in his career, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the odds of the fight, right?
But he's also 13-0 as well. He's undefeated.
He is undefeated as well. You're right. So I'm not surprised to see Khamzat as the favorite, but man, minus 250, I don't know. And again, this goes to what odds makers are trying to do. But, I can get Robert Whittaker at plus 205. I don't even think I need to hear who he's fighting. I just know that I'm getting plus 205.
Minus 250.
I got to put that. I'll pull that up, man.
Because I think, that's got to be what, like 60% of the time?
I would think so. Let's see here.
How would you even how do you even do that equations? Are you doing math or do you got some machine?
No, there's like a calculator. There's different ones. 71.4%.
I think when you look at it like that, I don't know. This is 5 rounds though, man. Like,
I know.
Listen, I'd say that's a great line at 3 rounds.
Yeah. Right? It's like I need different odds for round 1 versus every other round. You know what I mean? Like, because I mean, look, if you could rub the crystal ball, right, and the crystal ball says, "Well, I can't tell you who wins," I'd be like, "Well, can you tell me what round it ends in?" You know what I mean? Because if you say round 1, I'm like, "Oh, I'm Khamzat." If you say 2, now I'm a little torn. If you say 3 to 5, I'm putting all my money down on Robert Whittaker. But it's got to get past that first 5.
Here, I want to start breaking.
You can't wait. You said we'll wait till next week, but
I want to start breaking it down right now, but I haven't really went back and what I do is I'll go back and watch recent fights,
right?
And then that's kind of how I break it down. But I just got to throw this out there. If I'm Robert Whittaker's team, I'm almost saying, hey, in round number 1, walk your back straight to the cage and just go like this and hunker down. Be hard to take down. Don't throw punches. Let's not get caught in any wild exchange early. I mean, Dricus sat him down with a jab. Now, Dricus got crazy power. Does Khamzat have that kind of power? I don't know. Maybe not. But let's not take that risk early on. We're 100% defense. 100% defense in round number 1. With our only offense is we are not going to stop moving when he's getting something. That's going to be our offense. Our offense is just tire him out through our defense.
That's it. No, you're 100% right. It's wild to think that, right? Because if you're saying, well, don't we want to counter with something? But you're 100% right. Look, the gas tank is still a question with Khamzat Chimaev, right? Especially at 5 rounds. We haven't seen that. So why, wouldn't you want to draw him out a little bit? You know what I mean? Wouldn't you want to try to fatigue him a little bit, make him move, make him chain wrestle? Robert Whittaker's got great defensive wrestling, but you're right. It's like, let's just keep wearing on him, man. Let's just keep chaining on him, and let's dig the underhook. Let's turn. Let's grind. Let's see where he stands. So it's big, man. This is a big fight, man.
We're not going to do. We do not give up our back.
Oh, no.
And I don't know. It's easier said than done, right? But a lot of people get you have to be comfortable with being on your own back and being comfortable taking punches. Like I'm just thinking, God, I'm getting down these rabbit holes of already breaking down the fight. But I have to say that you have to accept the fact that you probably are going to get taken down early, right? And then make it boring. Make it boring early. Don't try to get up, right? Survive it. It may piss off, the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They're sending all this money to have this big fight card out there, but make it boring. Hold his head, grab his posture down, make him fight to posture up to punches that you can just block and grab his punch. Make him use all that energy, right?
I like that.
And then wait for the stand up in between rounds.
I like that because that's what I mean. It sounds weird, but he's capable of surviving in those positions. Let me ask you too. I mean, it's interesting because you say, "Hey, man, I'd go to the cage," because generally conventional wisdom against a wrestler is get back to the center so that you're not, because it's easier to take somebody down against the cage. But that's because you want to be able to use that cage to peel off and make sure he doesn't take your back. Is that the reason you go there?
You look at Chimaev, this guy blast doubles you from across the cage. His speed is so good. His level change is so great. It might be the best in the game. It may be best in the game of all time. I remember Josh Koscheck was so great at that. That's what made Josh Koscheck so great.
He was.
Is his level change and blast double was through the roof in the early days, right? Chimaev is that on steroids, right? and his drop level change and turning an angle on the level change at the same, like simultaneously, is better than anybody I've ever seen do it in MMA.
Yep.
That's how he gets most of his takedowns. He is the one fighter that gets most of them in the open cage. I think it's harder. It's harder for him to take somebody down against the cage because now the guy can get his legs in the proper position to start fighting it and draining that gas tank. That's why I said it. You do the Elvis, the hips, the hip control. You can switch the hips back and forth. Your legs are spread. That's making the other guy work to take you down. Whereas Chimaev, he dips under a punch. He just comes screaming a lot of times. You saw it in Kevin Holland. He came screaming down out of the corner, dropped and turned a level. Bam, done in 5 seconds. And he's not using that much energy to do it because his technique is so flawless there.
It's amazing because I've had that technique taught to me and described to me, but I've never heard it as the Elvis. But there's the black belt from Memphis, of course. It's the Elvis hips there. I love it.
Right.
But you're spot on. I like that. No, I like what you're saying there because that's why I wanted to ask you because it does make a lot of sense. But it's unconventional wisdom, right? Normally against wrestlers, you say, "Hey, man, get off the cage," because as you'll hear it. They'll talk about the black line inside the octagon, like, "Hey, man, don't get inside of that because now you're against the fence and you're making it easier for the wrestler." So I love that insight from you there on saying, hey, even though, traditionally you may think this would be the best place for you to be, it's not against this guy because he's so effective at what he does. And he is so good, man. Like you said, the level change, the blast double, the chain wrestling, it's off the charts, man. But if there's anybody that can test it, it's going to be Robert Whittaker. So that's why we're all so excited about this. And as you said, nobody's asking you to pay for it. It's on ABC. And oh, by the way, we're not even asking you to give up your Saturday night to do it. It can be on a Saturday afternoon as well. In the middle of the day, you can still go out and have dinner with the wife afterwards. I mean,
have you ever seen those Vince McMahon memes where it's like so-and-so says something like that? And then the last one is like, yeah. That's when you just were describing, but it's in the middle of the day. Oh, it's on free TV. I'm just like,
It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, here in Las Vegas, the main card kicks off at noon. In Memphis, it'll be 2 p.m. I mean, come on. You can't beat that for a Saturday.
Sergey and Volk in the co-main. Gastelum and D-Rod.
That's a great card, man. I'm telling you, it's going to be a lot of fun.
And they're giving that to me for free.
On ABC, man. Network television. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Saudi paying for this card?
Woo! I don't know, man. They're throwing out some money. They have been dropping some cash with boxing, with MMA. I mean, they're supporting the PFL as well. I mean, goodness, man. They're investing in sports. That's for sure.
Yeah. Ask PGA Tour what they thought about that.
Crazy, right? I mean, dude, that just goes to show you, the money that they waged around. The money was insane, but within a year, I mean, they're talking with the big dogs and they're talking about merging.
Well, they did such a hit job on the PGA that the PGA was like, "Yo, we got to merge some way, shape, or form." Like,
it's crazy, man.
All these people talking about, this is you're going over there with this, that, and the other. And dealing with these bad people, and now, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Let's play nice.
Yeah, let's do this.
Nice with Liv.
Let's do this.
Give me a break."
Crays, man. Crazy what they've been able to do.
Anyways, with that being said, I mean, we're gonna end a little bit early. We usually go an hour. We're going 48.
Wait, are we not going to talk about this series on Roku that everybody needs to be watching? If they're an MMA fan, they better be watching.
Yes, we are.
I'm sitting there holding, waiting. I got to see it early. I sent it to you because I was like, bro,
dude,
you have to watch this. It is not even out yet, but you need to watch it. And I know you started watching it immediately. What's it? Fight Inc. Inside the UFC. It's on Roku, which I don't have a Roku, but you can watch it online on the Roku channel. But dude, this might be the best piece of UFC content that I remember in years. Amazing.
I even texted you a couple questions. I'm like, is it really like this? I knew Hunter Campbell was the VP of legal affairs, and he was the second guy in charge, but he's in there making matches and stuff. They're working at midnight. They're still I knew that they'd work till late. That's what coming out of all of this. What was the one thing I told you at the very end? Who did I want to be?
Hunter Campbell's a G.
I said I want to be Hunter Campbell when I grow up, man.
Look, I've said it for years, and I think a lot of people do. I think for this will be the first time that a lot of people are seeing Hunter because he doesn't do interviews. Once you've seen his face, you'll recognize that you've seen him on stage. But if you didn't know who he was, you might not have realized. He's there at the ceremonial weigh-ins and all that. But I've said for years, and I don't know this as a fact to be true, but I've said for the past couple of years, I believe that when Dana White is ready to call it a career, and I don't think that's coming anytime soon. Let me tell you, I think Dana White loves his position, loves what he's doing. I think you'd have to drag him out of there kicking and screaming. But when he's ready to be done, I think Hunter Campbell is that heir apparent, the guy that takes over for him. I think this series, if you hadn't seen it before, if you hadn't seen that dynamic, I think you'll see probably agree with me in that sentiment as to why I felt that way for the past couple of years. That guy's involved in everything, and
he's definitely the yin to the yang.
Yes. There are a lot of people that don't actually deal with Dana. They deal with Hunter. It's a nice, they play a little good cop, bad cop sometimes, right? I mean, Dana's kind of the excitable, I think Sean Shelby called him like a hurricane, you know what I mean? He's just that force. And then you got Hunter. He's like, I got you, man. I understand. Don't worry. Don't worry here. Let's get this thing settled in. So that, I think they're the perfect counterbalance to each other in much the same way that
like in the Aljo negotiation with the setting up the O'Malley fight. Like, hey, we need a softer approach here.
Yep.
Unbelievable. Let's bring in Sean.
That's it. That's how you do it, man. It's amazing to see. Hunter, bring in Hunter. Yeah. No, it's amazing. The access that these people had. It is the most behind the scene footage you'll ever see. It's a 3-part series. So I just, look, I don't know. I was just everybody I can tell to seek it out. I'm telling them to seek it out. Like, I honestly enjoyed it so much, really getting to see the behind the scenes, everything. And again, the access they had to everything. And we kind of mentioned it earlier, but like even just like the little things, like the interaction of John Jones and Daniel Cormier before the Cyril Gane fight, when they're doing the interviews and John Jones is talking to John Anik on a phone, and they've got a camera on John Jones and they've got a camera in this room. And they're doing an interview before the Cyril Gane fight, doing that they do all the time. The commentators talk to the athletes.
Hey, John, is Daniel there?
Did it not bring you immediately back to that ESPN interview? Remember when they were in opposite rooms, and I won't say the word that he said, but he was like, "Hey, you there?" It brought me immediately back to that. And then John is just like, "Hey, man, I just want to let you know that I'm proud of you." And
I know, dude. It was so big brothering him, dude.
So big,
like patting him on the head. And like a lot of people are gonna look at that and being like, man, John, he's turning over a new leaf. He's being so nice to his ex-rival.
No way.
Hell no, he's not.
No way.
He's trying to belittle them. It's like saying, like, oh, bless his heart. How it's like
exactly.
That's all he's doing. He's patting him on the head and saying, you're doing really good, little brother.
If you just read the quotes, you'd be like, that was really nice. If you just read it on paper.
Proud of you.
Proud of you. And you can see Daniel Cormier flips him off.
Yeah,
it's so great. That interaction was absolutely amazing. That made it worth it right there. But just all the stuff they had, man. Dude, I thought the stuff on Sean O'Malley was great, man. And man, like I didn't realize how much.
Really quick.
Yeah.
I have to say this.
Yeah.
O'Malley fan of his skill. Always have been. The personality, it was a little too Gen Z-ish for me, right?
Right.
But now I'm a huge fan of the Sugar Show. Listen,
right?
The interaction between him and his daughter, dude, that is what gets me every time. That's why, I am an O'Malley. I will stand on the mountaintop and say, this dude is it. He has his priorities straight. The love that he had for his wife and his daughter, contrary to whatever's out there on posts and things, I think a lot of that's an act, truth be told, right?
Dude,
I saw it on that thing with him and his wife and his daughter, and the man's awesome.
I agree with you, man. That's exactly what I took walking away from this, right? Because I was always kind of the same way, whereas like the skills in the cage are unbelievable. Like the dude's fun to watch fight, like absolutely. But the personality to me, I was like, all right, well, it's clearly resonating, it's working. But the way he's been able to help his family, right? When he talked about like the way he's brought everybody in and he's been able to help them.
His brother off of drugs.
How amazing is that? I had no idea. I had no idea about that story. So the fact that he's done that has been amazing. And the intelligence that he showed, right? The intelligence where he talks about, because it used to hear this, and I heard Joe Silva say this all the time, that like, fighting in the UFC is an opportunity. It's not a career, right? You can't do this forever. And Sean O'Malley talked about, like, I'm kind of using this platform to build my own platform outside of it, and I have all these social media followings, and that allows me to go to businesses and show them what my personal reach is, not just as the UFC, but here's what my personal reach is. Therefore, that's why
metrics. Nobody's talking about that. No fighters are talking about metrics.
Spot on, man. The dude is intelligent and what he's been able to take care of his family. So, yeah, I just can't recommend this series enough.
The interactions he gets with his daughter.
Yes.
He's getting her up in the morning. Oh, man. You know how you get me. John Morgan knows how to, like, get sentimental Eric. And, dude, that is it. And so
100%. I walked away a bigger fan, man. I really did. I walked away a bigger fan of the guy. I was supposed to talk to him this past weekend, and it fell through. So hopefully we'll get that rescheduled. But yeah, man, I walked away a bigger fan, man. So I'm telling you, if you're a UFC fan, if you're an MMA fan, seek this thing out. It's worth it. I don't know if they're going to keep doing it. It's a 3-part series. From what I understand, they shot for like a year to get this thing done. You will be shocked at the amount of access they have. I mean, they are literally everywhere, everything behind the scenes, nothing off limit. I actually just posted on my Twitter account a clip that they gave us where it's like, it's the matchmaker meeting where you're inside the war room, and then they go to the cafeteria where Habib Nurmagomedov and Ali Abdelaziz are having lunch. I mean, they literally are everywhere. So I hope that they keep doing this. I don't know if there's any way that the Roku channel is making money off this thing. I don't know how they make it profitable. But even if the UFC is, if they're okay with like picking up and funding it or something, I don't know, man. I'd love to see more of this. If you're a fan of the sport, there's no way you won't enjoy like this level of access behind the scenes. So, we're not partnering with them or anything like that. This is not a paid plug by any stretch. This is just.
But me. you did get to see it a little bit early because he's John Morgan, the best journalist in the game. It's not like everybody gets to see it a few days early. I did because I know John Morgan. But what?
Got you the hookup. See, you got that VIP life now. It's good though. Like I said, I want to make clear we're not partners with them, but dude, I think if you're a fan, you'll love seeing it. It's well worth.
There's 3 documentaries you need to see as a fight fan. Fightville. Choke. And this Roku series.
It's awesome. I'd throw the Smashing Machine in there too.
It's dark, man. That's dark.
It's dark.
Like, that's the only reason I don't put that on there. Well, no, now put it on there. It's just dark, man. It's sad. And, looking through late 90s, looking at something in the late 90s or early 2000s through a 2024 prism is hard, knowing with like opiate addiction and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So, knowing what just like doctors prescribing about how that was commonplace and whatever, that makes it really dark.
I agree with you. It's not a fun watch. It's not a fun watch, but it's powerful. I think it's powerful. I think it's but the other two I think are fantastic. I expect Fightville.
Well, shout out to The Rock. Right? Shout out to The Rock, who's going to be playing. Yeah, Mark Kerr.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to seeing that, man. Looking forward to seeing that. But that Fightville documentary, how great is that, right? They're following around Dustin Poirier before anybody knows who Dustin Poirier is, right? They just struck gold, right? I mean, they're following this kid's career.
Well, and really, it was a documentary, really probably more about his coach, Tim Credor.
Right, absolutely.
And then it's like this guy emerged out of this, Dustin Poirier. Then it now goes to like, hey, this kid may have a shot. Now it's a documentary about Credor and Dustin. Yeah. And then it becomes all about Dustin.
Super cool, man. It was cool. So, I love that stuff, then, man. We love that stuff. As fans, you love to see that behind the scenes stuff, man. I mean, obviously the fights are what it's about, but man, all that stuff around it is so cool to watch, man. So I love stuff like that. And the more content we can get like that, the better, man. Because it's our favorite sport for a reason, man. Yeah,
it was awesome. Well, we ended the controversy debate today on the show. Do not question Jason Herzog. Just don't. And I just told you why you shouldn't. So go back. It was about 53 minutes ago where I talked about it. So if you need to listen to it again and don't ever say, hey, why isn't this ref consistent? You can't say that about Jason Herzog. All right. And it was a fun card this past weekend, but what we're looking forward to next. Not this next weekend, the weekend after that, June 22nd. Get here now. I am so excited. No, No disrespect to everybody fighting in the Apex this weekend, but that's on my calendar. But man, the 22nd from Saudi Arabia, UFC on ABC 6. With that being said, we got to get out of here. For John Morgan, I'm Eric McMahon. Enjoy the fights.